Bible, Daniel.
We've been looking at the book of Daniel, and we're in the last chapter. Daniel is so significant. I mean, there's so many things that we see that are launched here. It's quoted in the New Testament, especially like in the book of Revelation, and any kind of prophetic thing. You see things go back to Daniel. We've got things, words and stories that have connected, like the fiery furnace, the fourth man walking in the fire, thrown into the lion's den, the writing on the wall, things that are used in terminology in modern society a lot even, and if you don't know the Bible, you don't understand what they're talking about, like the writings on the wall, that kind of thing. You don't understand that it's like saying judgment's been determined, it's settled, it's written down, it's coming. So here we're at the place, and Daniel's just been told to conceal the words of this book until the end of time. And so if we're at the end of time, if we're getting close, I think the words will begin to be revealed that have been concealed, and I think greater understanding will begin to come. So we're going to finish up here at chapter 12. Verse 5, it says, "Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, two others were standing, one on this bank of the river, and the other on that bank of the river. And one said to the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, 'How long will it be until the end of these wonders?' And I heard the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, as he raised his right hand and his left hand toward heaven, and swore by him who lives forever that it would be for a time, times, and a half a time. And as soon as they finish shattering the power of the holy people, all these events will be completed." And so what he's saying here is that the time would speak about a year, times would be 2 years, and half a time, a half a year, essentially. So he's talking about a time of 3.5 years. This is confirmed in several other places in the scriptures, especially in the book of Revelation. Those last times are talked about as 1,260 days, 42 months, 3.5 years. All that's the same time period, the time, times, and a half a time. So he's saying that this authority of this one who speaks so boastfully and stands in this place, he's going to have authority for 3.5 years, essentially, until he actually shatters the power of the holy people. And I think specifically it's talking about Israel there, but it probably has a wider expanse. But he's talking about this, of course, this prophecy is about Daniel's people. But when that's completed, then things are going to come to an end. It says, we're already told that he'll come to an end without the help of man, that the Lord will actually do it. Verse 8, it says, "As for me, I heard but could not understand, so I said, 'My Lord, what will be the outcome of these events?'" So Daniel's still seeing this stuff. Through this book, this poor guy, he's been distressed, he's been shaking, he's lost his color, he's fallen to the ground. When he sees the things that God's doing, and of course this didn't happen in just a couple days or a couple weeks. He's, like I said, he's probably in his 80s at this point, at the end of these revelations. And so he's seen these over his lifetime. He couldn't understand what's going to be the outcome. And in verse 9, and he said, "Go your way, Daniel, for these words are concealed and sealed up until the end time." We see it again. Why is God so concerned about this end time? Well, I think he wants us to know how it's wrapping up, and that's the time that you're going to need more faith. You're going to need more of his word to withstand the circumstances of the day. You're going to have to say, well, I see what's happening, but he's already told us. "These things I have spoken unto you. In this world you shall have tribulation, but in me you'll have peace." And so, verse 10, "Many will be purged, purified, and refined, but the wicked will act wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who have insight will understand." So, there's going to be a distinction, a clear distinction between those who have understanding and the wicked who think they got it going, they know what they're talking about, but they're heading to destruction, and they've only got 3.5 years at the best that they're going to rule in that kind of situation. It says, "And from the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished," this is verse 11, "and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days." Okay, what does it say there? From the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished, we saw that the one who creates desolation, the abomination of desolation, going to stop the sacrifice. So from the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. So that's like another month after 3.5 years, and another 90 days. So what do we have there? The regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up. There will be 1,290 days. So how blessed is he who keeps waiting and attains to the 1,335 days. Now, in a lot of these things, I got no idea what they mean. I have no idea. that like when we get to the this 1,335 days, at the end of the 1,290 days, well, why is there another 45 days? You know, here's my one take on it, is that we've got a lot of things in the scriptures as far as what happens at the end of the age. And we see in the book of Revelation that when the seventh trump begins to sound, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. But then there's all kinds of things that still happen after that. And there's a cleansing. I think when the Lord is coming and he's going to the nations, he's taking over the nations, that kind of thing. Maybe that has something to do with this. I don't know. But I think one of the things that we just saw before this is Daniel, these words are concealed and sealed up until the end of days, until the end of the age. And so I think what we're seeing here is that a lot of these things are going to begin to be unveiled, and we'll see them more clearly as the end of the age comes. What we can see, you know, and this is the foundation for a lot of the end time teaching that we see in the New Testament. We see things here that are referred to in Thessalonians. We see things here that Jesus referred to. We see things here that are in the book of Revelation. And we see that the foundation of them are set here, and it seems like they keep coming up. You see that these years, this time period, especially the time period of the very end, we see it over and over and over again. And each time it seems like there's maybe a little bit more revelation given to it. We see a little bit more of the identity of who's going to be involved. We see a little bit more of the things that will be taking place. And so it's good to store those things up. And here was Daniel's last exhortation that was given to him in verse 13, chapter 12. But as for you, go your way to the end. Okay? End of your life. Daniel was told he's not going to see these things happen. It says, you go your way to the end of your life. You go your way to the end. Then you will enter into rest and rise again for your allotted portion at the end of the age. That's the way the book of Daniel ends. That, he's going to, says, Daniel, you've seen it all, you've recorded it, you've written it down, it's sealed up. It'll be revealed. It's not for your time. It's for the end of the age. It says, and you're going to die. You go ahead. Go ahead and die, Daniel. Go, end of your life. You'll enter into your rest. That Daniel's going to have his reward. You know, it says he's going to have it. It says, and then you'll rise again for your allotted portion at the end of the age. There's a resurrection coming when our spirits are joined back with our bodies. We get a new body. And, he's given this, and he's going to have a portion given at the end of the age. He says, go on, go ahead, pass on. You've highly esteemed man that's brought faithful. You've been faithful to the visions you've been given to give them to the people, to write them down. He was faithful to serve in two administrations of two different kingdoms, the kingdom of Babylon and then the kingdom of the Medes and the Persians. He was such a faithful leader that the leader of the Medes and the Persians, the king there, kept him from the previous administration, the previous nation, or kingdom, actually, that was in existence there. Daniel was kept over from that administration to the next one. You know, how strange that is. We see that in our own politics. One guy, even though he serves faithfully, it's hard to get him into the next administration. Well, Daniel was just a faithful man to serve whoever he was under, and he was brought into this next administration and ruled under the Medes and the Persians, and was faithful. And here he's given all of these visions. He's given the interpretation of visions, and he gives them, and he's told that, okay, there's going to be a resurrection. We see at the beginning of chapter 12, some are going to be raised to everlasting life, and others to contempt and disgrace, everlasting contempt and disgrace. And it says, and for you, what's going to happen to you? Because Daniel didn't understand what's going on with this. What do I do with this? Well, he's done everything he needs to do. You go your way. Go on. Go your way to the end. You'll enter into your rest, and you're going to rise again, Daniel. You're going to rise again. What a hopeful thing. What a nice thing to be told before you die, that you're going to rise again, and you're going to be given a portion at the end of the age. And that's where we wrap up this book of Daniel. Very important book. I encourage you to dive into it. I never used to look at it except for the stories, the fiery furnace, the lion's den, all that kind of stuff. But these prophecies are really important. I think the Lord will give us greater understanding in these days as we look into them with some fervency.